What's going on, Packer fans? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. We are maybe a day closer to finding out what Aaron Rodgers is actually going to do, although as this continues to go on and on, it continues to seem more and more like Aaron Rodgers is going to be back in Green Bay. I also got some updates from Indianapolis from Vic Tafur, who's basically saying anyone that he talks to in Indianapolis makes it seem like Devontae back to Green Bay is basically a done deal. So we will see. It seems more and more like this 2022 Packers team may look a heck of a lot like the 2021 Packers team. We did find out that the Packers are officially dating Aaron Rodgers. I say that because Matt LaFleur had sort of this funny quote on Wednesday, basically saying they're trying to show Aaron Rodgers how much they love him without being annoying. And if that isn't just the perfect, like, you're in love with a significant other and you want to tell them how much you love them, but you're worried that you're going to be overpowering and annoying and they're going to leave you. Like, the Packers and Aaron Rodgers are like officially dating / flirting. Like, they want to make it Facebook official. And it's complicated. The official status right now is it's complicated. The Packers are doing everything they can to win over their bride, and that's where things currently stand. But just a really telling comment from Matt LaFleur that, like, we want to tell him how much we love him, but we don't want to be annoying. Like, have we not all been there in some capacity at some point in our lives? So I feel for you, Matt LaFleur. I feel for you. You probably the one person who hasn't, by the way, is Matt LaFleur with those eyebrows and those looks. He probably, although if you go back to like Tennessee Titans, Matt LaFleur wasn't always the same. There was a little bit of a glow up come head coach Matt LaFleur, but we don't need to get into all of that. Let's talk about something a little bit more substantial. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, and let's more specifically talk about this upcoming season. Let's go ahead and assume that this is another run it back all in season. And I know we've done a little bit, or maybe a lot of bit, of assuming in that direction so far, but it certainly, again, seems to be leaning in that direction. But I do get the sense, probably because I've been one of the ones that have kind of been saying this to some extent, but I do get the sense that there's this like overwhelming fear out there of, if the Packers run it back, it's not going to be as good. And, we've seen this the last 3 seasons. What makes you think that if they bring it back again, that this is going to be any different? Like, it's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And while that very well could be the case, and they could run this thing back and probably get to another NFC championship and probably have another heartbreaking defeat, because we're very well versed in those at this point, I don't think that is just this foregone conclusion. And today, I want to go through the 10 things and the 10 ways that I think this team can be better, even if the roster is worse. Even if they have to go through this season maybe without a Devondre Campbell or a Rasul Douglas. Even if they aren't quite as talented as they were on paper a season ago, that doesn't mean they can't be better as a football team and ultimately win a championship. So I'm going to run through 10 reasons why I think this team can actually be better if they can do some of these things in 2022 than they were in 2021. So let's start with number 1, and that's Aaron Rodgers and his deep ball accuracy. Now, we are not going to sit and nitpick the MVP of the league and say like he needs to be a lot better, right? He's the MVP of the league for a reason. He played fantastic through the course of the season. But one thing that let him down at times, specifically early in the season, then he sort of found his mojo later in the season a little bit more, was some of his deep ball accuracy. Him and MVS weren't always on the same page. There were some opportunities downfield where he just couldn't hit. If you remember back early in the season, like, it was getting to the point where you were wondering, like, is this going to turn around? And then, of course, second half of the season, it mostly did. But I still think there is an area there for Rodgers to improve and be a really good deep ball passer. He doesn't have quite the zip on the ball that he once did. He doesn't have quite the arm strength that he once did. He doesn't have quite the mobility to get outside of the pocket and make some of those plays that he once did. But there's no reason he cannot be just as accurate as he's ever been and still throw from within the pocket and hit those deep balls down the field with better accuracy than he did in 2021. And if he can do that, I do think that this offense can open up more, and you can see some of those explosive plays come back, some of the scoring efficiency come back, and this team move back into maybe being one of the top teams, if not the top team in scoring potential. Now, in order to do that, you do have to have deep ball threats. And as of right now, the Packers wide receiver core is Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers, and Juwan Winfrey, right? We don't know what's going to happen with Lazard. We don't know what's happened with Adams, MVS, EQ, etc. What's going to happen in the draft? Do they try to sign anyone? Those are still unanswered questions. But you got to think that Green Bay's not going to go into the season without some level of deep threat on this roster, whether that's an MVS, somebody from the draft, somebody from outside. And either way, whether it's Adams, Lazard, whoever it is, like, there are plays to be made, and I think Rodgers can do a better job in 2022 than he did in 2021. And if he does that, again, it opens up the offense for those more explosive plays, maybe keeps the safeties a little bit more honest deep down the field, not wanting to give up those big plays, which opens up a lot over the middle, opens up the running game, etc. So this isn't just a Rodgers thing. This is an overall explosive offense thing where they can hit on a few more of those deep balls, which, again, I think they can. Again, I think they have the ability to be a bit more efficient. All right, number two, speaking of efficiency, is red zone efficiency, something that in the Matt LaFleur era, they've actually been pretty darn good with. But defensively last year, they were the third worst defense in red zone efficiency. And remember, at the beginning of the year, they couldn't stop anyone. Got a little bit better as the year went along, but third worst defense in red zone efficiency, and only the 19th best offense in offensive red zone efficiency. So these are two areas where not only could they improve, you would expect them to improve. I don't expect Green Bay to be the third worst in red zone defense again. I just think they have way too much talent. Like, you can strip this team of Rasul Douglas, Devondre Campbell, Zadarius Smith, even take one more. Like, take your pick of Amos or Lowry or like Preston, like some. I still wouldn't expect them to be the third worst team in red zone defense. Like, they just have too much talent for that. So it's something that they not only, again, have to improve, but they easily should improve from a season ago. Even if they can get that to the midway mark, that's a really big difference in points allowed defensively. And then 19th best on offense. Again, if Aaron Rodgers is back, I don't care who his weapons are. I don't care what is surrounding him. With Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers on offense, you would expect that to be a top 10 unit in red zone efficiency, and that can improve your points offensively and your efficiency offensively. So those are two big areas in one category where I think Green Bay can turn the scoring margin quite a bit. Now go back to number one, more explosive offense, and then number two, better red zone efficiency, both offensively and defensively, and your difference in point differential gets much better really quick. And I legitimately think those are things that Green Bay can improve upon and just be a better overall team in 2022. Number three is injuries, right? Like, let's be fair. In 2019, they got insanely lucky with no injuries. Then in 2020, they got insanely lucky with no injuries until David Bakhtiari goes down with a torn ACL, which was incredibly unlucky at that exact time, in a non-contact practice injury before the playoffs. And then last year, a lot of injuries that affected the team in a major way. But there's going to be injuries. There's players that are going to get hurt. But David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Jair Alexander, three of your absolute best players who missed a huge chunk of last year, or almost all of it in David Bakhtiari's case, will be back at some point this upcoming season and could pay major dividends to this team. Now, ultimately, some other star player is going to go down and get hurt. That's just the name of the game. But a lot of this is luck, and maybe Green Bay is just a lot luckier with injuries this year than they were in 2021. So that is another thing that could potentially help Green Bay out, is just A, getting those three guys back from injury, but B, if the injury bug doesn't bite them, or maybe at least doesn't bite them at the wrong time, they could be in a better position and better off than they were a season ago. Number four is simply, and it's not so simple, but playing their best football at the right time. We've now gone back-to-back-to-back seasons where Green Bay played its best football during the regular season and not during the playoffs. And they showed flashes in the playoffs, right? That Green Bay win against Seattle in the divisional round in 2019 was a good game. I thought they played good football in that game. The game against the Rams in 2020, I thought they played good football in that game. There's flashes of it, right? But you have to play at minimum 3 games back-to-back-to-back, and against San Francisco and Tampa Bay and what was it, San Francisco again? Yeah. So like those 3 games, they didn't come close to playing their best football. As I've mentioned in the past, it's not good enough to play and get the number 1 seed in the playoffs. The best teams in the playoffs evolve themselves. It's a legitimate evolution from what you did in the regular season to now taking a step forward and playing even better in the playoffs. In 3 straight years, Green Bay has not. And not only have they not played better, they've played worse in the playoffs than they played in the regular season. Now, part of that is opponent, but part of it is just they didn't play well at the exactly wrong time. And that can't happen. So playing better at the right time, maybe getting hot towards the end of the season rather than the beginning or middle, that maybe could influence things and make things a little bit better, and just Green Bay playing its best football in January and February rather than September and October. Number 5, of course, is special teams. And once again, we will go through the entire spiel of saying we don't need it to be great. Just average would be a massive blessing. If Rich Bisaccia can get this to even the 19th ranked special teams, hallelujah. Sign me up, put it in blood on the dotted line. I will sign up for that right now. 19th ranked special teams in 2022. Where the heck can I sign up? It doesn't have to be amazing. It just can't be abysmal. And if you could get it to where it's not in the bottom third, okay, now we're cooking with gas, right? So either way, and we said this last year, right? We said coming off the worst special teams, 32nd ranked special teams in 2020, no way it could be worse with Mo Drayton in 2021. Boy, were we wrong. It was, and at the worst possible moment. But if Rich Bisaccia can get this again, even to a top 20 special teams, that could pay massive dividends. And at minimum, they don't lose that game against San Francisco. They're not eliminated in the playoffs if special teams doesn't implode. So that could be a major key to them playing much better football in 2022. And of course, it sounds like they're willing to maybe invest more in the position, maybe play starters more. All of those things could pay huge dividends on special teams as well. Number 6 is explosive runs. It was a sort of a low-key area where Green Bay really fell off in 2021 and just weren't as good. A lot of that was offensive line, right? Jenkins, Bakhtiari, those sort of things. I just think if they can get healthy, and of course Corey Linsley leaving in free agency, if they can get healthy and get everyone lined up, I think in their most optimal lineup, I think you're going to see those explosive runs come back. I think both Dillon and Jones are more than capable of breaking off big runs. They just need a little bit more blocking up front and the opportunity to make people miss in the, on the second level. Far too many times Dillon and Jones are making people miss at or behind the line of scrimmage. And if that person that they're making miss is at the 5 to 10 yards downfield rather than behind the line of scrimmage, those are turning into 40, 50 yard runs instead of 4 or 5 yard runs. So that's what I would like to see offensive line be a bit better. And again, if you can get more of those explosive runs, more efficiency on offense, more points, more point production, etc. Number 7 is third down defense. They were 24th last year in third down defense. This is an area where, again, I think they just have the talent to be much better. If they can get off the field, it's going to help their defensive efficiency, make them so that they're not, the teams are getting down in the red zone where, again, they weren't very good a season ago. That could be a huge way. And then just getting the ball back in better field position, right? So these are all ways where Green Bay can just be more efficient. And you could say, Andy, well, yeah, that all sounds good, but you have to have the players to make those things happen. They do, right? And losing guys like maybe Devondre Campbell, whomever they end up losing, could hurt the chances of maybe being better in those situations. But let's not forget, again, David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Jair Alexander, other guys are going to be back healthy, maybe a Robert Tonyan. They're going to add guys in the draft. I don't think it's far-fetched that they can be better in these areas, even if it's incrementally, right? Even if they take a handful of steps in some of these directions. Maybe they're the 10th worst on defense rather than the 3rd worst in the red zone. Maybe they're the 10th best on offense rather than the 19th best. Maybe they're defensively, they're 25th instead of 32nd. Maybe they add 4 to 5 explosive runs throughout the course of a season. All of those things are not insanely difficult to ask, but you put them all together, and before you know it, you're a much better team at the end of the year when you go back and look at everything. So those are some of the things I'm looking for. Next up is Rashod Gary. And you might say, Andy, Rashod Gary was great last year. He was. And I still think he has a step to go. I legit think he has another step to take. We saw his freshman year was basically a redshirt season, or his rookie year was basically a redshirt season. His second year, was a rotational player. We saw more flashes, etc. His third year was a starter. It is sort of his coming out. Now it's Pro Bowl, All-Pro Rashod Gary time. He has that potential. He has that ability. If he can take that step, look the heck out. If he can become a true game wrecker, which we saw real flashes of towards the end of last season. If he becomes that real, just absolute game wrecker, things change in a hurry for the Packers defense. And I legitimately believe he has the ability to take that next step. It is massive. If you can have Like, look what Charles Woodson or Clay Matthews in his prime or Reggie White. And those are big names, right? I'm not saying Rashod Gary needs to be Woodson or Reggie White, something like that, right? But if he can take a step in that direction to being pretty close to that sort of player, again, I think that's within his skill set. If he does that, this defense can take a major step in a hurry because teams just have to spend so much time worrying and game planning for a player like that. I think he can take that jump, and if he does, it's going to help out the defense, tremendously. Number 9, Darnell Savage having a bounce back. When I've seen players have seasons like Darnell Savage had a season ago, I tend to write them off a little bit more and have a lot of concerns. I believe that Darnell Savage is a good football player, and I saw enough in his first 2 seasons to believe that he's way too good to have this type of season that he had a season ago. That's his first season in Joe Barry's defense, and you can actually make a strong argument that Joe Barry's defense isn't perfect for Darnell Savage. I think you can make a really strong argument of that, but I still expect him to be better than he was a season ago. And just working on taking better angles, working on wrapping up better, and just using his instincts better, I think if he can start doing those things, he can have a bounce back season. And once again, he doesn't need to be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro, right? Last year, he was a negative more often than not on defense. If he could just be a net neutral player or a slight positive, which he is more than capable of being and was in his first 2 seasons, that's a big bounce back and you get much better play from him. And that starts covering for maybe a guy like Devondre Campbell being gone, right? Yeah, you maybe have a worse inside linebacker, but you have a way better free safety. Like those things start evening themselves out and you can get by with losing a couple of your key guys from last season. And again, once again, putting as good or a better team together in 2022. And then last but not least, you have a weaker NFC. And again, I mentioned this yesterday, we will still see, right? The draft, free agency, trades haven't really happened yet. There's going to be a lot of movement, but already you have Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers basically imploding, like Tom Brady retiring and the Buccaneers imploding as a team, right? That was one of probably 4 teams that had a legit chance to move on. The 49ers are going to be starting a first-time starter in Trey Lance in all likelihood, right? That's a tough ask for them to be like a Super Bowl contender in a quarterback's first year as a starter. So all of a sudden you take those couple teams out of it. Now you're talking about what? Rams, maybe the Cardinals get in the discussion, maybe the Cowboys get in the discussion, but Rams and Packers are going to go into this season as the heavy favorites to win the NFC. And I just don't see anything that's going to change that unless like all of a sudden Deshaun Watson goes to like the 49ers or like something crazy, right? Like we'll see. I don't see some of these things happening, but who knows what this offseason is going to bring. But as things stand right now, I do expect the NFC to be weaker, and I do expect the Rams and the Packers to be the 2 top teams going into the NFC as the 2022 season kicks off. So, in conclusion, Rodgers better deep ball accuracy, better red zone efficiency on both offense and defense, better injury luck, playing better at the right time, better special teams, more explosive runs, third down defense, a explosive breakout from Rashod Gary, a return to normal for Darnell Savage, and a weaker NFC. Add those things together, before you know it, Green Bay's competing for a Super Bowl, regardless of even if they lose some talent this upcoming offseason. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you all, as always, for joining me. I'll be right back here tomorrow, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.